Indiana University Northwest, Purdue University Calumet, First Midwest Bank Amphitheater, Governors State University, Ileana Motor Speedway, Prairie State College, South Shore Rail County.
And you can see right back there, just as it crossed the state line is where we've seen that rotation. And now it's still ongoing here as it's approaching 41. So you folks over in Sherrillville right now, this storm is heading right for you in that rotation center. Certainly the threat there for high winds and hail continues across this entire storm area. The circulation itself is looking a little more ragged here on these latest radar scans. Doesn't necessarily mean that the tornado threat is going down, but it means that there is certainly still rotation and the possibility of a tornado. And sometimes these storms go through cycles where they spin up real rapidly and maybe produce a tornado, then they weaken, and then they'll spin back up again. And we might be seeing that evolution occur right over Sherrillville back towards Dyer as we speak. I'm looking at this radar here, and there are a couple little hooks showing up on the radar, which may be indications of a new updraft starting in a new area of rotation and concern with this storm. Again, we've got the confirmation of it being on the ground a few moments ago back towards the west. That was about it was coming up about 4:31 was when that was confirmed on the ground. So that was about 6 minutes ago back here along the state line. And now that circulation, at least where it was confirmed on the ground, is right in this general area. So if you're over here in Sherrillville heading over towards say Highland and even down towards St. John, this is the danger zone right now for this potential tornado. Let me just go in even closer. Junction Avenue, Joliet Street, Old Lincoln Highway, obviously US 30, 41 right now, Deer Creek Road, 213th Street, all these areas, even up towards Main Street, Klein Avenue. Those are some spots right here where the circulation is passing overhead or shortly will in a few moments. And those are the areas where you need to be taking your tornado precautions at this time. And that extends all the way back here towards, over towards 213th Street, also over towards Calumet Avenue. It's a little small on the map here, even hard for me to read a little bit. And then also up here to the north, you can see up here along Main Street is where this rotation signature is being located on this particular radar image. So again, the tornado warning continues here for all of the northern half of Lake County, Indiana, and this tornado warning continues until 5 o'clock. So another 21 minutes or so with this particular tornado warned storm. And as Phil was mentioning, we still have a tornado warning over here for you folks in the town of LaPorte. A lot of people watch us over in LaPorte. This tornado warning is for the town of LaPorte and areas eastward, getting closer over towards Willis and eventually over towards the Crumbstown area as well, just to the west of South Bend. These other storms we were watching here and now in western parts of Cook County up into DuPage County, no warnings with them. Thankful for that, but they're still producing heavy rain and quite a bit of lightning. And Phil, these storms out to the west are kind of outrunning their main energy, so they're not severe. This one tornado warning will expire here pretty shortly, and it looks like the storm is moving into DeKalb County right now with no additional warning. And that other storm to the south, we'll still keep an eye on that one. That one still looks pretty impressive as it's moving towards Livingston County.
Yeah, and that one for LaSalle County, that not only did it expire, they did cancel it a few minutes early, but we're still mostly concerned with this one cell in Lake County, Indiana. You can see the most intense part of the storm is now moving into the eastern part of Lake County, but the area of concern is still farther to the south and west. That's where we are continuing to see the rotation, right around and just now east of Sherrillville. Some rotation right in this area. We had a confirmed tornado with this near Dyer earlier. It is moving almost due east, so get ready, Merrillville. It is heading your way, and it is going to start to maybe go a little bit farther to the northeast. So again, some of the communities that could be affected include Merrillville now at 450 and closer to the top of the hour over in Hobart. We've had report of some debris being flown about in the Sherrillville area. We had a confirmed tornado on the ground near Dyer. This is a very dangerous storm. It is primarily just to the south of I-80 as it continues to move to the east. This is the area that we're watching closely. We just got an updated image. There you see that red. That's where we're seeing some very strong rotation and some very powerful winds with this storm. The green, again, means it's moving towards the radar site. The red means it's moving away. So you get the idea. We have converging winds here, and we have a large area of rotation, and the main area of concern right now is on the east side of Schererville and heading right towards Merrillville. There's the tornado warning. We're getting an updated on it right now. Severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Dyer. The tornado has lifted, but this storm remains very capable of producing a tornado. So the tornado warning for Cook and Will counties, that has ended. It's still in effect until 5 o'clock for the northern part of Lake County, with the greatest concern in that Schererville, St. John, Merrillville corridor, and possibly getting a little bit closer to I-80 as we get closer to 5 o'clock. This is a big storm. You can see the tops on this storm are up around 35, even exceeding 40,000 feet. Probably some hail in that, where you see some of those higher DBZs showing up, some of those levels right there. This is one of several storms that we're watching. Some of the tornado warnings have expired, thank goodness. There's one right down here just out of our viewing area that we're continuing to monitor. You get the idea. We have plenty more storms on the way, but the good news is none of this activity has been severe in the corridor right along the Ike and extending out along the Reagan. So you get the idea. Yeah, we have plenty of storms, but the greatest concern continues to be with that cell in northwest Indiana, especially the northern portions of Lake County. Let's go back over to Larry.
And Phil, I'm watching the rotation still with this storm here, just now over Schererville, heading over towards Merrillville, as you were pointing out. And I want to go in a little bit closer on the radar and show you a new product that we haven't shown you yet so far in our coverage of these storms. It's a shear product, and basically what it is it's an area for us to see where there is rotation being depicted by the radar in a kind of a different way from looking at the velocity data, where we show you the greens and reds. This is showing the brighter blues represent where there's a lot of rotation going on within the storm itself. And that's right over Schererville right now, heading over New Elliott, getting just along US 30. In fact, really along US 30 up to the north here is where this is located. So here's Ridge Road. Here's US 30. If you're between Ridge Road, which is 6 up here, and then also over towards US 30, this is the zone where this tornado is located, and it's moving over towards the Merrillville area. I know this is still just kind of west and slightly northwest of where the mall is here along 30, just on the other side of I-65. Many people are probably familiar with that mall if you live in northwest Indiana, but up just to the west of that mall, just to the west here of the mall and north of US 30 is where that circulation is located. And just to kind of backtrack in time here, take a look at that blue area right there. As we go back in time, the rotation was a little bit stronger as it crossed over 41 and when it was back over Dyer. That's when we had the report of the tornado on the ground, and then it continued to kind of spin up when it was back around Crete and Chicago Heights. So that was around 417, and now we're at our current time, and you can see that rotation signature still showing up, although not as tight as it was, say, a few moments ago, but the threat is still there that there may be a tornado with this particular storm as it's moving close to Merrillville as we speak. So this is right along 55 here, Lincoln Village up towards Turkey Creek Meadows, some of the subdivisions up this way. You need to be in your tornado safe room right now. This is a very dangerous storm getting ready to cross over 55 in the next couple of moments, heading along 61st Avenue, heading over towards 56th Avenue as well, Harrison Street. This is the zone right now where we're under the potential for a tornado with damaging winds and maybe even some strong gusty winds outside of a tornado threat. Also, if you're down here along US 30, I don't like to see this little thing sticking down from the bottom part of that storm. If you're along US 30, even south of US 30, you should be in your tornado precaution area right now as well, because anywhere from here, the southern flank of this storm up into where we're getting that little bit of a notch along 55, that's the danger zone for a tornado to develop at any moment with this storm. The storm itself will be heading over into Porter County within the next 30 minutes or so. So right now we just have the tornado warning for Lake County. The severe thunderstorm warning that was in effect for Cook County has been dropped, but the tornado warning continues here for Lake County, and this may possibly be extended over into Porter County as this storm continues off to the east. As Phil was mentioning, that's the only tornado warning we have right now in the immediate area. We have storms firing up here across the city on the north and northwest side, and then some really strong storms stretching down towards Morris and down towards Pontiac. But these have actually weakened a little bit. We did have the tornado warning back here to the west, and that's still in effect around Minooq here, crossing over I-39, but the storms blowing out ahead of that storm are not severe at this moment. So that's certainly a good sign. The less severe storms we have, obviously the better, but the one most intense storm is the one that has the tornado warning here in Lake County, pushing over into Porter County as we speak. And Phil, you've been looking at kind of the velocity data with this. I'll send it back to you and you can take a peek because you've been examining that while I was talking.
Yeah, Larry, and we've been watching this cell here for about the past half hour, and you can see this is our velocity display, and watch this red ball as it moved across Crete and then into Dyer and St. John is now getting very close to Merrillville. That's where we have seen most of the rotation, the green next to red. It's not quite as pronounced as it was earlier, but there's still a pretty good rotation right there, now moving right across Merrillville. This is a somewhat more populated area compared to Dyer and places right along the Illinois-Indiana line, and it's right along I-65 that we are seeing rotation and possibly some very strong winds moving both towards the radar site and away. So be careful if you're in Merrillville. Be careful. It's heading right towards you folks in Hobart and just to the south of Hobart as well. So here's the most intense part of the storm, right across Hobart. That's where you're probably getting some hail. But you see this appendage right here. That's the area of rotation just over and just west of Merrillville, very close to I-65 and continuing to move to the east. So we're going to continue to monitor this. This is the tornado warn system, tornado warn cell, and it continues in effect until 5 o'clock. So keep in mind, this entire area is under the tornado warning. Here's Chicago up here, just to give you a frame of reference, and here's the Illinois-Indiana line. It does include Gary, but you can see now we're getting the back of that kind of hacked off. That means this part of the area no longer under a tornado warning. It's primarily areas near I-65, including Merrillville and points east. I'm especially concerned for both Merrillville as well as the area around Hobart. And as you were saying, Larry, this could be extended into parts of Porter County here very shortly. Still have a tornado warning for a sliver of LaPorte County from right around the town of LaPorte. One other tornado warning down here towards I-39. That's not in our viewing area, but look at all the showers and storms developing. The good news is, apart from the cells we're talking about, these storms have not turned severe, but the atmosphere has a lot of spin, a lot of shear involved right now, and that's why these storms can start to rotate. But as we get more coverage, the chance of an individual cell going tornadic becomes less and less. But still, you can see some individual development, so we're going to continue to monitor this as we head through the next couple of hours. The greatest concern is between now and about 7, 8 o'clock, and the one cell that we're still very concerned with is that one that is very close to Merrillville. Larry.
And Phil, just getting some updates from the spotters out here in the field. Many of the trained spotters here around the Merrillville area are reporting rapid rotation with this lowering that's occurring with the storm and occasional funnels. And what we're seeing on the radar right now is a rapid intensification of that rotation right over Merrillville, heading over towards the Hobart area as we speak. So the threat for a tornado is going up even more so here in Merrillville, stretching over towards Hobart right now, along 51, US 30, Green Acres, over towards Ainsworth right now, excuse me. This is a spot where we need to be taking your tornado precautions at this time. Here is 61st Avenue. Here is, let's see, that's Wisconsin Street right there. All these areas are in the spot here where we could be seeing this tornado re-intensify and possibly touch down. I'll go to the velocity data and we'll look at this a little bit more closely. And there you can see the greens and the reds kind of backing up right next to each other, right over top of Merrillville. So that's the area of most intense rotation where we're seeing the threat for a tornado increasing rapidly. Again, the spotters just a few moments ago were showing and telling us that they were seeing funnel clouds. But because the radar is indicating a tightening up of that rotation, it certainly lends us to believe that the possibility of a tornado touching down is going back up here. And this is going to cross over I-65 in the next couple of moments and stretch over towards Hobart here in the next few moments as well. I'll go ahead and track that rotation as it moves off towards the east and northeast at about 25 miles per hour. And it will eventually extend over into Porter County here in Indiana. So you folks in Hobart here at about 501, McCool at about 517, and Crocker at about 5:20. That'll be the arrival time of the storm. Green Acres, you're kind of next in line too for that rotation. It's coming in the next couple of moments here in the Green Acres area. We've talked a lot about getting into that safe room and your safe location. That's that small interior room where you go away from the walls, away from windows. Some of these storms earlier broke windows out in Naperville and Oswego, not from wind, but from the large hail that was being blown into those windows from this storm. And up here around Hobart, up towards Lake Station, we're likely getting some very large hail to come down at this point. So you might be experiencing some very high winds from Lake Station down towards Hobart, but to the south right now is where the rotation is, and that's moving right over Merrillville as we speak. We're looking at these storms moving off towards the east right now. The other storm that was back here in LaPorte County has now moved over towards South Bend. That one is now moving out of LaPorte County, but this stretch of storms that extends from around LaPorte back towards Merrillville and Hobart right now, that's moving off to the east. And you folks in Porter County, you're going to get it again from this particular storm coming your way. And these additional thunderstorms that are back here to the west, this area here, south of Joliet, Kankakee, Watseka, Rensselaer, DeMont, you're in the spot where the most likely threat of severe weather will continue over the next several hours as these lines of storms out to the west march across our area. Up here in Chicago, that big storm, although it was a nasty storm and it's really been a horrible storm, it has kind of stabilized the atmosphere up here across Cook County and DuPage County. So we've got storms coming through, but the intensity of those storms is not what we're seeing down here to the south, where the air is a little bit warmer and a little bit more unstable from the heating up of the day. So Phil, we're watching this tornado warning here. Again, it looks like it'll likely be extended into Porter County, probably coming up in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, you know, I was just about to say that, Larry, because it is expected to expire at 5 o'clock, and we're still seeing plenty of rotation with that cell. So right now, the only tornado warning for the immediate area is for that part of Lake County, generally from just west of Merrillville on east. And we continue to watch the rotation. You can see right there, that's the cell right there, that red next to green area. You can see how it moved right across Dyer, St. John, and now moving across Merrillville. This is where we're seeing the strongest rotation. Now just to the east of I-65, getting very close to Hobart and just south of Hobart. That's where we have a possible tornado developing. We've had a brief touchdown with this earlier back near the Illinois-Indiana line, and we continue to watch rotation. And it's still, you look at live Doppler 7 Max, we see this. This is the thing of concern. Yes, the heaviest part of the storm is now on the east side of Hobart, where you probably have seen some significant hail, but you see this appendage right here. That's where we could have a tornado. That's where we have the wall cloud, and we have seen, at least briefly, a tornado produced from that wall cloud. It is moving to the east-northeast at a fairly good clip, so these are some of the communities that could be affected. Valparaiso, you could be seeing this part of the tornadic cell by as early as 5:15. And we take a three-dimensional view of this. You can see the tops, well, they're about up to 40,000 feet. So not quite as high as they were a little bit earlier in the day. You can see now we have that new tornado warning. It does still include the eastern parts of Lake County, and it also now includes much of Porter County, including you folks in Valparaiso and Chesterton and Burns Harbor. Be prepared. The cell has produced the tornado earlier. It continues to rotate. We're going to continue to give you updates as long as we have tornado warnings in our area. Let's go back to Larry. He's going to have more on this tornado warning as it continues to move to the east. Larry.
Yeah, that new tornado warning is in effect until 5:45 here for Porter and Lake counties here in northwest Indiana. That storm itself, that rotation center, is just now pulling out of Merrillville and just south of Hobart right now, right along 51 here, and very close to US 30 is where that circulation center is located, as Phil was pointing out a second ago. I'll go to that velocity mode, and right there, look at the greens and reds right next to each other. So there's the rotation area right in this zone between 51 and 30, and just to the south and west of 130 here, south of US 6. So if you're between US 6 and US 30, that's the spot right now where this rotation is really quite intense on the radar, which lends us to believe that's that's exactly the spot where there's a tornado. If it's on the ground, it would be in that particular area. The other thing that the velocity data can show us and tell us is that where we're seeing brighter shades of green, we're getting some real high winds. So the tornado threat is there, but even without the tornado threat, this storm is likely producing winds upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour as it's blowing through. I want to go back to that shear product again and kind of look at the areas where we're seeing the rotation with this particular product. And it was back over Merrillville a few moments ago. Now it's a little farther to the east. But again, you can see when I put this in motion, these this little blue specks that show up are indications of rotation within that storm itself, moving off towards the east now over the Merrillville and Hobart area. We'll go back to the radar because this is a great tool we have to illustrate exactly where that rotation center is. And tucked up right in here where you see that little notch, that's the rotation being picked up by the radar. And when you see these rotation signatures, these little hook echoes, you got to think of it as like a very complex storm where the air is rising from the ground up, and it's rising right in this particular area. Where you get the red and the hail, that's where the air is sinking. But here's where the air is rising, and as that air is rising, it's really rapidly rotating, not only at the ground or at the lower base of the clouds, but all the way up through this thunderstorm. The entire column of air is rotating, and occasionally that rotation can make it all the way down to the ground and produce a tornado. There's the latest radar updated scan, and I want to go to that velocity data again. Right over Deep River, that's where the rotation is right now, crossing over 51 along US 30 right now. Ainsworth, you're right now in that center of circulation, so we're watching that one as it moves off towards the east here, just about ready to cross the county line. And what I want to do is I want to track that rotation center as it moves off towards the east. So as Phil was mentioning, you folks in Valparaiso, you're under a tornado warning right now. The actual tornado itself, where the circulation is still back along the county line, so it's got a little ways to come to you, but I would be taking my tornado precautions right now. Valparaiso at 517. You can see over towards West Hill at about 513 and Deep River here, basically as we speak here at 458. So this is a tornado warned storm in effect here for Lake and Porter County. We also continue with that severe storm and tornado now moving into the South Bend area as well. Let me zoom back out on the radar and give you the wider perspective because we're watching the storms in northwest Indiana and the storms moving through northern Illinois at this point. The one storm we have right now will be down to our south and west around the Pontiac area. This one here still showing some signs of rotation at this point. We're keeping an eye on it. There are no warnings issued for this particular storm, but there is still the threat of some rod rotation with this area moving through as we speak. So again, the tornado warning continues here for for Porter and Lake County. It will likely be extended over into LaPorte County as we go through the course of the next hour or so as these storms blow on through. We're getting also reports of the sirens going off in northwest Indiana. That's obviously a good sign. You know, these outdoor warning sirens are meant to warn people outside, not if you're in your house. They're designed for people who happen to be out and about in their neighborhood and not so much to warn you in your house. You really need ways to get warnings on your devices like your cell phones. If you have a weather radio, those are all the tools you need to be alerted for tornado warnings. Our AccuWeather app will alert you right away too if you can include notifications on those on your cell phone app. So again, there's the tornado warning we're looking at. We're watching this storm moving right over Hobart right now, pushing off into Porter County. You folks around Deep River heading over towards 51, 130, right along US 30. This is the area of greatest concern right now for a potential tornado. Did have a touchdown reported back closer to the Dyer area. The storm itself is now moving off towards the east at 35 miles per hour, and it's still capable of producing a tornado really at any moment. Let's just look at the hail size with this too, because this storm is likely producing some very large hail up on the northern side of it. And we are getting some hail reports now north of Valparaiso and up here around Hobart and just north of Hobart as well. What may be happening here, and I'll go back to the radar image, is we're probably seeing a new storm developing right over Valparaiso, and we might have to look for this area too for potential rotation. Right in here, maybe seeing another area of rotation, and oftentimes you'll see a new storm fire up downstream from the storm itself. So this is another spot where we have to keep an eye out for a possible rotation center. Yeah, look there, right there. Okay, so right there on the velocity data, you see this little area right here just north of Valparaiso, crossing over 49 right now. That's an area where we're getting reports of possible rotation with that particular storm. In fact, I just see a report coming out of that area of a rotating wall cloud. So if you're here near New Durham over towards Coburg, along 421 right now, just north of Valparaiso, another potential rotation center showing up in that particular zone. And here across Hobart, we're still seeing the threat for maybe a brief little spin-up tornado in this general zone as well. So a couple of spots here in northwest Indiana are not looking very favorable for, these storms weakening. They're really showing more signs of kind of strengthening, especially this little zone right here moving out of Porter County into LaPorte County is another very suspicious spot where when I spot that on the radar, I say to myself, that doesn't look good, and that's certainly a sign of rotation and another possible tornado developing in that zone. This area here, roughly from Naperville down towards Joliet and then stretching into northwest Indiana, that's the area where we're seeing this warm front. And along that warm front is the most likely locations for spin-up tornadoes. Meteorologist Cheryl Scott is here as we start the 5 o'clock news. And Cheryl, we've had several of these big storms roll through the area as we've gone through the course of the afternoon.
Oh, it has just been an active afternoon so far. We still have many warnings on the map right now. Numerous tornado warnings have been issued over the past couple of hours, but one of the strongest storms that poses the biggest threat right now is in northwest Indiana. So we are focusing on this one. A tornado warning remains in effect here for Lake and Porter County until 5:45. Valparaiso, you are in the path of this storm, as well as Chesterton, and then stretching over to New Durham, where we actually now just have a new tornado warning that was just issued just off to the east because of these cells and the potential here for the rotation. The atmosphere is prime for spin-ups today. That means we do have increasing wind speeds at different levels with height, allowing for the rotation. So for LaPorte County, a tornado warning now just issued. This one in effect until 5:45, and you can see the center of this storm just crossing over New Durham there, and it is centered just to the south of I-80. But I want to go back to that one storm here in parts of Porter County. This is bringing an extreme amount of rainfall with it. So this is not the time where you want to look out the window, go outside, see what's happening, because these storms are producing a lot of rain. If there is a tornado, it could be rain-wrapped, blinding rain conditions here. So if you are under a tornado warning at any point in time during the afternoon and evening, you have to have that safety plan in place. You want to make sure you go to your safest place, whether it be the basement or the lowest level of your home, because it's going to continue to be an active night of weather here, especially over the next couple of hours. So you can see radar right now picking up on this strong cell and thunderstorm in parts of Lake and Porter County, northwest Indiana. Now, this storm cell has had a history of tornado touchdown potentially. We did get a confirmation of a tornado touchdown close to the Dyer area. I want to take a look at velocity here, and Larry's also been monitoring this closely, and we have been seeing a lot of inflow and a lot of rotation within these thunderstorms. And this storm cell, as of right now, potentially showing signs of rotation in just more than one place. You can see just around Valparaiso, back to the west here, right around Sylvan Manor, Sedley as well, Crestville. Concerned about this area, getting that inflow and also that outflow with this storm, potentially some rotation here, and then a little bit farther to the east, we're also noticing here some strong rotation and even a decent rotation signature around New Durham, where we just had that tornado warning issued here, which is in effect until 5:45. So we can track this cell here, and in the path of this storm as it continues to move to the east at about 25 to 30 miles per hour. This means you need to get in your safe place immediately. So Door Village, and then stretching farther off to the east, getting closer to Monroe Manor there. Off to the west, still this cell that we're continuing to monitor out of the Lake and Porter area. Here you can see just that thunderstorm and the potential here still for some tornadic activity within this thunderstorm. So continuing to monitor this, and in the path of this storm, again, Valparaiso, you are right there, Robble Woods as well. This is going to continue to work its way off to the east, and as it does, there will still be the potential of some tornado potential with this storm. Larry, getting more information in.
Yeah, Cheryl, just got a piece of video in of the Dyer tornado. I want to show you that video right now. This is the storm that's in northwest Indiana right now as it was approaching Dyer.
Tornado. Oh, damn.
Okay, I apologize for the language,
wow.
but you can see that right there in the distance, the tornado being recorded by this gentleman here looking off from his house, I'm assuming. And you can see it was kind of there is no really such thing as a smallish tornado, but it's kind of a rope tornado there stretching down. And that lower base you see hanging down right over the treetops there, that's the wall cloud. And that's the area where the air is rising rapidly up into the sky. And we had that brief touchdown there with that storm as it approached Dyer, Indiana. So that storm that you saw just there that produced the tornado is the one that's now here in Porter and also in LaPorte County. And as Cheryl was mentioning, there are two areas where we're seeing rotation being detected by the radar, and that's the areas where there could potentially be two tornadoes at the same time from this pretty large extensive storm. So what I want to do is go over to the velocity mode here and show you those two different areas. And what you can see is right here along the county line, just now moving into LaPorte County from Porter County is one area of rotation, and then this other area back here just to the west of Valparaiso right along US 30. That's the other zone where we're seeing rotation with this particular storm. Now these storms, as they've been coming through, have certainly produced very heavy rain and also some very gusty winds, but the tornado concern is of utmost threat right now across Porter and LaPorte County as we speak. Back to the west, these storms back here to the west, I have no new warnings with them. The storms are making a lot of noise here down towards Pontiac, and if you're back here in Kane County, even in DuPage County, and even here in the city, we're getting some pretty heavy storms to blow through, but there are no warnings with these storms. Thankful for that. At this very moment, the activity is here in northwest Indiana. And I do want to mention that as we go through the next couple of hours, we still have this tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock this evening. It covers most of the area, all the counties shaded in red. It's starting to be cleared out to the west because what happens here is once these storms blow through over the next couple of hours, and especially if you're south and in northwest Indiana, that's where the greatest threat of tornadoes will be. But look what happens later this evening. There's 7 o'clock. Here's 9:30. The storms start to clear out. We'll probably have some leftover rain, but really between about now and say 7 o'clock is the window of time with the greatest threat of strong winds and tornadoes and the big severe storms. And it's primarily for those areas to the south and southeast where we've yet to see the big storms arrive. So this area here, south of the city and in northwest Indiana, that's still the zone where the greatest threat of severe weather continues. Out to the west, you can see how things are drying up and clearing out. That's the best sign we've seen so far this afternoon, Cheryl.
Yeah, that is exactly right. So we are seeing some of that activity continue to diminish and weaken back to the west. But our big concern will be the extremely heavy rain, the lightning associated with the showers and storms moving through parts of northwest Indiana right now. We do have that tornado warning in effect here still for parts of the Valparaiso area and then stretching into LaPorte. Tornado warning cell remains in effect for definitely a few more minutes. So if you're in this area, Lake Porter County, make sure you are in your safe place. There's definitely been signs of rotation within this thunderstorm. As of right now, you can see a lot of lightning associated with this storm as well. So extremely heavy rain. Larry, we've had rain rates with some of these storms upwards of about 3 to 5 inches per hour. What that means is that storms falling in that given location for that amount of time, that's how much rain it would produce. So again, even some flash flooding concerns. This is not the time that you want to be out and about on the roads, etc. So definitely want to keep that safe place in mind.
For sure. I just got a report out of the Lansing airport of nearly 1 inch of rain in 20 minutes. That's how fast that rain is coming down in some of these thunderstorms. So we've seen a lot of reports and pictures from you on my Twitter account and Cheryl's Twitter account. You've been sending us pictures and video of flooded roadways and even trees and tree limbs down from these storms. And they're still producing some really intense rainfall here across northwest Indiana. Let's go back and talk more about these tornadoes here that we're seeing across parts of northwest Indiana. The newest threat right now is heading towards Valparaiso. As we speak, there's a signature right there on the radar, right along US 30 and right along 130 here, just west west of downtown Valparaiso. This is a very clear sign that there's likely a tornado in this area. Certainly rotation, possibly a tornado on the ground heading towards you folks in Valparaiso. I've got no confirmation of that, but we need to treat it like there's a tornado heading towards Valparaiso and get into that safe area. You know, here on the west side of town, there are a lot of new subdivisions that have gone up in the past 5 years or so, and also just north of town too. Valparaiso is really a growing city. This is an area here that will be probably stretching right along US 30 and then moving off towards the east. That's the spot right now where we're most concerned about a tornado developing from this storm. And then also up here into LaPorte County, you can see around Durham, New Durham right now, getting closer to the town of LaPorte. That signature doesn't look as impressive as it did a few moments ago, but it's still capable of producing a tornado there. The new updated I have for the Porter County storm, the tornado is possibly located near Lincoln Hills, moving east at 25 miles per hour. So that's the new tornado warning here for parts of Lake and Porter County. The storm is located right over Lincoln Hills, possible tornado there. Cheryl?
Yeah, this is just definitely the area that we are most concerned about here. Much of northern Illinois beginning to see those storms diminish, but still signs of rotation definitely within these thunderstorms in northwest Indiana, Lake and Porter County especially right now. We're going to zoom on in, and where I want to show you that area of concern, it is now just to the west of Valparaiso, which means Valpo, you need to get into your safe place. You can see a little bit of a notch. When we see these notches, a little bit of a hook, that indicates the potential of that rotation and tornado touchdown. We do not have any confirmed reports of a tornado touchdown in this area, but this storm has shown history of producing a tornado just back to the west a little bit, about 45 minutes to an hour ago, close to Dyer, Indiana. We actually had video of that. So this is now continuing to cross to the east here. You see Sedley in the path of that, right along 130, Valparaiso as well. You're in the path of this. So 30 down towards about up towards 130, Crestview as well. Sylvan Manor, you're in the path of this. I want to dive in even a little bit closer. We can give you street level vision here, go in a little bit deeper. So we have Joliet Road, West Hill in the path of this. We also have Hayes Lemon Road as well. Off towards the east, there's Valparaiso, South Washington Street. These are the areas and the streets that we'd be most concerned about with this cell right here. Bullseye Lake Road as well, Campbell Street in the path of this, also Country Club Road, Burlington Beach. There you are just getting the extreme heavy rain coming down. Glendale Boulevard, you're in the path of this as well. So this is still a tornado warned storm. That tornado warning remains in effect, and we also still have a tornado warning that was just issued at about 5 o'clock, which remains in effect until 5:45 into parts of LaPorte County. So here you can see Lake and Porter. This is the zone, this storm, as it continues to move to the east, the potential for it to continue to potentially allow for a tornado touchdown. That's definitely not out of the question. Take a look at where we have this extremely heavy rain coming down, the potential for hail within this storm as well. These storms have not only brought the potential of rotation, but also hail, large hail in size, up to about 1.5 inches, not out of the question. So when we talk about 1 inch size hail, quarter size hail, we could potentially see larger hail, ping pong ball size hail, not out of the question. So right around Sedley, Valpo, Roble Woods, this is the region where you're going to see just that storm continuing to come down and hammer this area, as well as New Durham. You're still under that tornado warning here until 5:45. This is right around New Durham. That circulation crossing over 421, centered right along I-80 as it will continue to push its way up towards the north and east. Let's go back to velocity, make sure what we're finding here. And again, this is definitely a storm that we need to be concerned about. You can clearly see, we talk about this velocity mode. This helps us dive into the storm and take a look at the winds with heights. When we have something like this with those greens and those reds right next to each other, that indicates turning of winds with height and the potential for that thunderstorm, that supercell thunderstorm, to take on the rotation and then drop down a tornado. Now, as of right now, there's not been a tornado touchdown confirmed with this, but again, you need to be in your safe place. So this is going to continue to travel up towards the east, northeast, LaPorte. You are in the path of this this storm. If you're in LaPorte right now, you want to get to the lowest level of your home, a basement, as much room between you and the outside walls. That is the general idea. So if you don't have a basement, you want to be on the lowest level, preferably a closet or a bathroom. And make sure you take those blankets and things to cover your heads just in case. Also Oakwood right along I-80 here. So let's zoom out just a little bit so I can track this one little cell here that's definitely showing some decent signs of rotation. We're going to be concerned with this storm as it continues to work its way to the north and east. So LaPorte, this is getting close to you within the next 15 minutes. Salem Heights also in the path of this storm, and then Willis there at 5:35 if this storm were still going, or if it still holds on to some of its rotation there. That is a little ways out, but something we're going to monitor. So anyone in the path of these storms today, you need to have that severe weather plan ready to go. Valparaiso definitely still showing some signs of rotation here. Again, right on top of Valparaiso. Let's switch over to radar mode as we're still clearly seeing some defined rotation within this storm. And this is exactly what we look for on radar when we look for the potential of the rotation. So here you can see this thunderstorm now right on top of Roble Woods here, crossing over 49. This is just to the south of 80, basically on top of Valparaiso. And then you can see a little bit of a notch right now, right there. So on top of Valparaiso, this would be an area where we could potentially find a tornado forming within this thunderstorm. So for those of you in Valpo, this is a highly populated area, a lot of lightning, a lot of heavy rain, the thunder. Just make sure you get to that safe place. So this is right along 130 as well as 2. As we zoom on in, you can still see some cities and definitely some streets here within the path of this. So if you live in any of this area in the confined zone of this warning, we want to make sure you are safe here. So we have Beach Street, and you can see stretching back towards the west. There is Valpo, 130 there, and that's exactly where that storm is moving. So right along Roble Woods as well. This is going to be definitely a concern here, Larry, as it's still showing some strong signs and signatures of some decent rotation at this time.
Just got a report from the spotters down here in Valparaiso. Rapidly rotating wall cloud, which is that first sign of maybe a potential tornado developing when you see the wall cloud rapidly rotating. And there you can see that little hook echo right up just over Valparaiso and on the north side. This is not too far from Valparaiso High School. Up Campbell Street here on the north side of town is where Valparaiso High School is located. So in that area here from roughly downtown up to the north and even downtown, you're going to be hit by these real high winds which are coming in as we speak right now. The rotation center is right now over town as we speak. And again, the spotters are reporting rotation being clearly evident on that rotating wall cloud. No report of a touchdown, but we got to treat it like there's a tornado on the ground and just ride this one out and get into that safe room and let this storm pass by. But the circulation itself is right over Valparaiso on the north side of town, getting closer to the university as well, which is right along US 30. That's my old stomping grounds. I went to school there. And you can see right here, right over Valpo is where this tornado is located, this rotation potential tornado, and where you get this little hook and this little notch that shows up in the radar, that's the storm just kind of rapidly rotating and winding up and producing some very low level spin, which could lead to a tornado. We'll go back to the shear product as well and kind of take a peek at this too. It's a little delayed a little bit. It's actually right over Valparaiso, but what you can see here on the velocity mode, which is kind of our best way to detect the rotation, right here, wrapping up right over Valparaiso as we speak, is that tight rotation. So from downtown along Lincoln Way, stretching over towards now closer to the airport, this is the zone where we're seeing the potential for a tornado coming right through Valparaiso. If you're in Valparaiso, you need to be in your safe room. If you're not there already, get there now. Let this storm pass. And if you're off towards the east side of Valparaiso, along US 30, I know there are several hotels now along 49 here and just along US 30 that have been recently built. If you're in that new area here, and there's a lot of commercial development along 49, Target's over there, some other big stores and whatnot have come in this area. You need to take your tornado precautions if you're in that area, because this storm is moving right over top of you and heading off towards the east, moving right over 49 here in the next couple of moments and over towards State Road 2 in just a few moments as well. Okay, got a report out of Yorkville, which was an earlier storm. The Menards area there, 4 to 5 inch tree diameters broke in. Several trees, at least 8 inches in diameter, were snapped. So that was from the storm earlier back in the Yorkville area. That was the one that came across and did a lot of rain and hail damage here across parts of the western and southwestern suburbs. But right now, our greatest threat is for Valparaiso, the city of Valparaiso. You are under a tornado warning with this storm coming through. Back to the west, there are still storms coming our way, but these are not severe. The storms here in Chicago, stretching down towards Kankakee, not severe at this time. This one storm up here in northwest Indiana, right over Valparaiso, is the one that has the potential tornado. And as I've been talking, you can kind of see the circulation starting to move over Valparaiso and now stretching off towards the east. So if you're in eastern Porter County and the western parts of LaPorte County, you're next in line for that circulation to come right overhead. The other thing that's happening, looking at the radar, there's a new circulation developing now south of US 30. So as I put this in motion and put the radar loop over the past 30 minutes, look at that new storm flare up just south of the one that's in Valparaiso right now. When this happens, it cuts off the inflow to that storm, and this is the new area to watch right here along US 30. There and here are new tornado rotation signatures being picked up by the radar. That one will also lift off towards the east and northeast. So Cheryl, that's another spot right now where we'll have to watch that. And I also got a report out of the Yorkville area of the Menards. A small section of the roof caved in there. That was in Yorkville from that storm earlier. But again, the one in Valparaiso right now is the one with the greatest threat of a tornado.
Yeah, exactly right. These storms are definitely strong thunderstorms out there today, and we're definitely going to continue to hold in on this one tornado-warned storm here in parts of Porter County right around Valparaiso. So again, we've been talking about this. If you're just tuning in, we do have tornado warnings on the map at this hour until 5:45. As of right now, we've been really monitoring the circulation close to the Valpo area, and this is crossing over 49 right now. And you can see, just if you're in Valpo, you are getting the extreme heavy rain coming down. Also in this area need to be concerned. We're talking about Burlington Beach, Long Island Lake just to the north of Valparaiso, Glendale Boulevard as well, East Evans Ave, North State Route 2. If I'm saying any of these streets or neighborhoods that you're hearing, that means you need to be in your safe place or get to it immediately. This is passing right along there, US 30, Porter County Municipal Airport in the path of this as well, East County Road 200 North. So this is a populated area. We're definitely concerned about this as it has been showing some decent signs of rotation. We had a confirmed tornado report touchdown not too long ago just to the west of this area. As we switch over to velocity mode, still finding a decent signature that's continuing to work its way now to the east of Valparaiso there. And again, you can see just these reds and these greens basically coinciding next to each other, which indicates that rotation within these thunderstorms, switching over that mode just a little bit. So it does appear a little bit muddled at this point, which may be a good sign that perhaps this storm is losing some of its rotation, but still you have the reds and the greens right next to each other. So Valparaiso right now, this storm, the center of it will be passing just to the east around Coburg. To there, you can see crossing over 49, Roble Woods, and also New Durham, where you have a tornado warning in your area as well. So as we track this here, and the path of this storm will be just along Route 30 there, and the potential here still for that rotation that's going to continue to work its way through. So we'll take where we're seeing that rotation signature out to the east here. In the path, you can see 525 Coburg, Alita at about 528, and Owanata at 530. So again, in the path of this storm, you want to be in your safe place. Switching over to radar, these storms have not only been packing a punch with the rain, but also the lightning as well. We now do have a new severe thunderstorm warning that has just come in, and this is in effect for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties. So it's somewhat of a large severe thunderstorm warning, or it's encompassing a large area. And that's because the storm is just holding on to its strength, and it's going to continue to just fire off to the east at about 25 to 35 miles per hour. And within this severe thunderstorm warning zone, what we're going to look out for is potentially 1-inch size hail, or even a little bit greater, not out of the question, and also winds up to about 50 to 60 miles per hour within this thunderstorm as it continues to move to the east. Looking at the latest reports coming in, we still do have that tornado warning in effect for Lake and Porter County. There was reports of that storm here that we are showing you on radar, passing now just to the east of Valparaiso. Valparaiso, you're getting through the thick of it, so the rain there is going to let up. But just off to the east of Valpo and just to the south of New Durham, that's where this strong cell is now located. So it is continuing to move its way quickly. Also, Hannah in the path of this, as well as Kingsbury. There's still some signs of increasing low-level rotation within this thunderstorm. The atmosphere is prime. We have a frontal boundary draped across northern Illinois. That's allowing for our winds to basically converge and conflict with height, which allows for that spin in the atmosphere. And this morning, we were seeing those signs and the environment just becoming more conducive to allow for these severe thunderstorms to develop. And they are continuing to fire here, definitely. And Northwest Indiana is the zone where we are finding the greatest threat here and the greatest signs of rotation. So just to the south of New Durham and also close to LaPorte now is where we're finding that rotation signature as well. Kingsford Heights there just to the south. Anyone just to the south of I-80 here in parts of Lake and Porter counties. Again, these storms are packing a punch with extremely heavy rain. And we always say, you know, if you hear a warning, I know there's been reports of sirens going off, you just want to get to your safe place immediately. You don't want to step outside. You don't want to take the time to see if there's anything that you can potentially see, because in an atmosphere like this, with the extreme moisture that we're dealing with, we have high dew points, definitely those, you can step outside and feel the humidity. So with all of this moisture that we're working with, these thunderstorms can produce just extreme amounts of rain. And here you can see the rain just firing and coming down at a very fast, strong pace here, right around Coburg, crossing over 421. New Durham, you are in the path of this storm as well. You're still in the tornado warning until 5:45 here. This is going to, again, work its way up towards the east-northeast. LaPorte, you're also in the path of this, so right along 6. There you see 35. The concern is here. Kingsford Heights, you are in the severe thunderstorm warned zone, but still very close to this storm with potential rotation. We haven't had a report of a confirmed tornado touchdown out of this, but still the potential tornado is not out of the question, or tornado is possible. And now coming in is a potential flash flood warning that has just been issued for this area, and that is exactly right. So here you can see this green here just flashing here for parts of Porter County and then into parts of Michiana. That's because, like I mentioned, the rain rates with some of these storms are just so high. As we switch over to precipitation rates within these thunderstorms, you can see just a good amount of rain coming down with these storms. And we can query this, showing about 5 inches per hour. So if this storm right here, just to the southwest of Chesterton, that's going to continue to rush to the east, which just moved out of Valparaiso. So there could be definitely some ponding on area roads. This is not good time for travel, especially for the afternoon commute. But if this storm sat here in an hour, it would produce 5 inches of rain. However, it is moving, but it gives you a sense, an idea of exactly how much rain is being produced within these thunderstorms. So let's just regroup. Let's backtrack just a little bit, give you an idea of where we still have our warnings in place. Let's zoom out, put everything into motion to give you a big picture as we continue to focus in on some of these thunderstorms that are working their way through. So for parts of northern Indiana, downtown Chicago getting in on the rain, down to the south, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning just to the south there of Kankakee. So this is another cell that we're definitely going to have to watch as it continues to head off towards the east into parts of northwest Indiana as well. But where we have the tornado warned storms here, Lake and Porter County, you are still in the path of this, and now a new tornado warning was issued to the east of this cell into parts of South Bend, because these storms are still continuing to hold on to that twist and that spin with the environment as they're continuing to work their way through. Continuing to monitor any reports coming in, and as of right now, Larry, I'm still not seeing, I'm still not seeing a tornado touchdown confirmation here, but definitely something that we are continuing to closely monitor.
Yeah, well, that storm that I was showing a second ago that kind of fed into the main storm that was over Valparaiso kind of shut off the rotation signature for a brief while, but there is still the concern that it may produce a tornado still as it kind of re-ramps up again. Sometimes these storms go through cycles where they kind of lessen their rotation, and then a new center of rotation will develop, and that's what I've seen with this particular storm. So what has happened is a new severe thunderstorm thunderstorm warning box has been issued for parts of LaPorte County, stretching over into St. Joseph County, which is just southwest of South Bend. And that's because that new circulation, which is still really right along US 30 here, right over Wanata, as you were mentioning, is now moving off towards the east. But there isn't as tight of a circulation here to warn an additional tornado warning being issued across this area that's outlined in yellow. There is still the possibility that this could produce a tornado really at any moment, because it could rapidly re-intensify its circulation and drop a tornado. But the merging of these storms, so there's that one here, and you can see right there, see how it kind of fed into that storm that was over Valparaiso? That cut off the storm that was to the north from its good feed of moisture that's coming up from the south. And so the storm is going through a cycle of where it's reestablishing itself, and we'll see if it gets stronger again as it moves through LaPorte County, because that circulation is still trying to get going again here right along US 30 and 421, which is right there in Wanata. That's just east of the Valparaiso airport, and east of downtown Valparaiso is where we're starting to see another circulation center trying to develop. So when you look at this on the velocity data, we'll put this in the velocity mode here, and I'll drop off these that green box, and you can see that right over Wanata there is still some signs of a little bit of rotation. Now, it's not as evident as it was when it was back over Valparaiso, when you get the greens and reds right next to each other, but there is still certainly a circulation trying to redevelop over Wanata. So that spot right there is our main concern for a tornado. The other locations that we have around the area are not severe, at least here across the city and back into the western suburbs. We've got a few showers and thunderstorms coming through, but nothing severe here, just kind of the general old kind of summer thunderstorms moving through. There is a severe thunderstorm down to the south here, moving through Ford and Iroquois County. That one's got a tremendous amount of lightning, but what's happening is the threat of severe weather is shifting to our south and east away from us. We are technically still in this tornado watch until 9 o'clock, but I tell you, the greatest threat of any tornadoes is in northwest Indiana and then stretching down to the south and east. So Kankakee, Newton, Jasper County, and then into north central Indiana. That's where the greatest threat of tornadoes will be as we go through the course of the next couple of hours. For us here in Chicago, the threat of severe weather has gone down pretty substantially from earlier because of that first storm that came through, and then also because of the additional little showers and storms that are with us. And I've got some video to share with you too, just into us from Plainfield. So we got video of hail in Plainfield. A lot of you saw very large hail, upwards of quarter to even larger than that. Look at that. Just listen to it. Covering the ground. I got a lot of reports of broken windows here in the western suburbs, especially around Oswego, the south side of Naperville, from these large hailstones being blown into windows and breaking windows, breaking screens on the windows as well. There you can see the high winds picking up. There were quite a few, what looked like some video I saw on Twitter, on my Twitter feed, a lot of microbursts too, which are really high, strong gusts of winds coming out of the thunderstorm that don't cover a lot of area, but you can see just how intense that wind was. Here's some more video. And then, of course, the heavy rain, the significant flooding threat we had, and even some standing water still remains after these storms have come through. And with more rain coming down, it's really creating a huge problem out there. There's some more video. Look at the winds there. So we clocked winds around 60 to 70 miles per hour from Oswego to Naperville, heading over towards Romeoville, Plainfield area. And we also saw those very large hailstones from Yorkville to Oswego, Naperville, heading over towards Bolingbrook and Romeoville. That was the corridor that was really hard hit by those earlier storms. I don't know where this was, if we got an Allsip right there. Yep. Thanks for putting that on the screen there for us and letting us know where that was. But some high wind reports, and you can see a little bit of damage there in the Allsip area. The wind reports were kind of scattered about a large area, so a lot of you experienced these really high gusty winds with these storms as they came through. And right now, the tornado threat is of greatest concern as it moves out of Porter County into LaPorte County. I know we've got people on the phones reaching out to folks in northwest Indiana, getting an update. Oh, there's that tornado video again from Dyer, Indiana. That was the storm that touched down just as it was approaching the state line here, approaching Dyer, and then it moved off towards the east and went right over Valparaiso. Here's another piece of video. Let's drop that banner. There we go. Yeah. So you can kind of see, don't know if that one's on the ground at that point because of the tree lines obscuring our view of the ground, but that whole area, you see that big kind of lowering kind of a gray shape there to the storm, that's the rotating wall cloud. And when the spotters are out there in the field, they're looking at that whole area for a rotation, and right in the center of your screen is where that funnel cloud and tornado is located. And so that's what the spotters have been showing us and getting us reports on as we've gone through the course of the afternoon. Again, that was back in Dyer. That same storm is now moving into LaPorte County. LaPorte County, you've had a couple of tornado warnings so far today, and this is the next one coming through with this particular storm. Looks like the center of circulation may stay just a little bit south of the town of LaPorte, but if you're along US 30 here from Hanna, stretching over towards US 6, that's the zone where this tornado is still capable of moving and pushing through your area. I do want to mention that if you're back in Valparaiso, you've been cleared of the tornado warning. So all clear right now in Valparaiso. You've been cleared of the tornado warning. Same for all of Porter County. No tornado warning for you now in Porter County. It's just over in LaPorte County where we've got still a tornado warning hanging on, and now it's more of a severe thunderstorm warning for much of LaPorte County. Elsewhere, Cheryl, this is the best news we can give you. Just some general thunderstorms coming through. No severe weather here around the city.
Yeah, and just off to the south, I'm monitoring a big cluster here of some lightning. You can see that vivid on our live Doppler 7 Max. But at the south of Kankakee, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Ford and Iroquois counties. No, this is just south of our area. But the concern with this storm, which we can't rule out a tornado, we can't rule out some rotation here. A lot of lightning, downpour, winds up to about 60 miles per hour, as well as 1-inch size hail, not out of the question. This storm is going to cross over the state line here for parts of Northwest Indiana, move into Newton and Jasper. So this is quickly racing in, and this cell is also definitely going to bring some intense amount of rainfall with it, as well as that lightning. Again, there is that severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Ford and Iroquois County until 6:15. So as we track this out moving to the east, for those of you in Newton and Jasper County, you need to be alert and ready to go to that safe place just in case we do see any signs of rotation within this thunderstorm. But take a look at all of the lightning associated with this storm here. Now, this is just to the south of Kankakee, down 57, just to the south of Shabance there. And Watseka is in the path of this at about 537, as well as Sheldon 553, Beaver 555, Kentland about 604. So some of the main activity so far has been in parts of Northwest Indiana, Lake and Porter. But for those of you in Newton and Jasper, things are really going to start to pick up here in terms of that rain, the intensity there, also some hail and extremely high winds, not out of the question. So we still do have a tornado warning on the map here, and this is for LaPorte County, and this remains in effect for the next couple of minutes until 5:45. So you can still see this one little area with this warned zone here just to the south of New Durham is where we're finding the center of circulation there. This is going to be crossing over Kingsford Heights there. LaPorte, you're in the path of this, but the most intense part of this thunderstorm is to the south. And also for those of you off towards the east, Kankakee in the path of this, and this will continue to work its way through parts of Michiana. So again, this warning is still in effect until 5:45. It has not been lifted yet. It has not yet expired. So please just be aware of that. But some of the strongest storms here in Northwest Indiana are continuing to work their way to the east. You can see this zone, which is warned with the severe thunderstorm warning around Kankakee, stretching back towards Hanna there. This is well now to the east of Valparaiso, but even new tornado warnings even farther to the east. So if you have friends or family in parts of Northwest Indiana here, Cass County as well as St. Joseph County under a tornado warning now because of this storm that's going to ride right along I-80 here. The center of the circulation is to the south. It has just crossed over South Bend, so these are picking up some speed just a little bit, but this warning is also in effect until 5:45. So Concord in the path of this storm, and this will continue to quickly work its way up towards the north and east. So right now, Michiana under the gun with the heaviest thunderstorms and the greatest risk of severe weather, but something that we continue to monitor as a broad picture here. You can see the warnings here now just pushing off towards the east, and they will continue to move their way in that direction. We definitely have some storms moving through parts of Cook County as well. These are below severe limits, and that is great news. Off to the south, down 57, Kankakee just to the south for Ford and Iroquois. That's where we're seeing another monster thunderstorm here, and that is producing a lot of hail. So again, Newton and Jasper County, you are going going to be a focus here with the potential of this storm as it continues to race off to the east here, right on top of Ashcombe, Martinton in the path of this, Watseka and Iroquois right along 52. And then there you can see the state border as we cross over. So Beaver, you would be in the path of this. Let's take a look at the hail parameter within this thunderstorm here. And as we put it into motion, definitely producing half-inch size hail, not out of the question. Up to 1-inch size hail within this thunderstorm can also be anticipated. That's not out of the question. So a concern here will definitely be some extremely high winds. And this is in effect the severe thunderstorm warning for Iroquois County until 6:15. So we'll see as this storm continues to cross over here into parts of northwest Indiana, close to 41. For those of you in the path of this, you just need to be alert because any storm in this environment will have the potential with the frontal boundary in place to pick up on some rotation here as it continues to work its way to the east, and that will get close to 65. So for those of you in Beaver, down towards Kentland, as well as Iroquois, I want you to be alert and just have a safety plan as this storm gets closer to you. Now, as of right now, just a severe thunderstorm warning in place. And remember, our entire area under a tornado watch pretty much until 9 p.m. tonight. So we saw all of the parameters coming together earlier this morning, and over the past couple of days, it has been an active time across the country, not only here at home, but definitely in the middle of the country as well. But tornado warnings still remain in effect here for parts of LaPorte County, also Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark under a tornado warning. That is a new tornado warning that has just been issued now. So this is a new tornado warning that has just come in. It is in effect until 6:30 here. And here you can see this storm. The path here, this red box, is that warned zone. Kankakee in the path of this, as well as Hannah, you are just off to the south. So this just coming in, let's take a closer look with the extremely heavy rain coming down. So for those of you in the Kingsbury area, Kingsford Heights, as well as Stillwell, Kankakee, Walkerton, you would be in the path of this. This is a new warning that's in for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties. So clearly there's definitely some rotation still being picked up in this area. Let's track this storm. Again, these storms are moving to the east and the northeast at about 35 miles per hour. This would be the zone as it continues to work its way to the east. Kankakee, you are in the path of this, as we mentioned, as well as Polk and Greene. But let me take this off for a second. So what I want to zoom in on, just to the south of Kingsford Heights here and around Hannah, and there's where you can kind of see a little bit of a notch. So this is where we would be getting some inflow right along 39, right on top of Hannah. And then this would be moving to the east there along 30 and 35 in the path Kingsford Heights. Too close for comfort. I want you in your safe place for sure. Getting to the lowest level of your home, the basement is the best possibility. Let's take a look at the velocity within this warned storm, and there you can see. There you can clearly see some rotation within this thunderstorm here around Kingsford Heights and then stretching back towards 39. This would be the zone of concern with the potential of here some rotation. This is now moving to the east of 639 Union Mills, racing past you. Davis would be in the path of this, Kankakee, Walkerton, Oregon, North Liberty. Again, this is getting a little bit farther off to the east, but still poses a threat, certainly for LaPorte County. So for those of you in LaPorte County, down towards Kankakee, even Hannah, right along 30 here, and then I-80. So it's between I-80 and 30 where we're finding that zone of the potential here for still some tornadic activity here as we go into the next hour. This warning that was just issued remains in effect until 6:30. So there you can see the warning there. We can actually go in a little bit and take off the severe thunderstorm warning. We also have flash flood warnings in place because these storms are producing so much rainfall within a given hour. We're talking 1 to 2 inches at least. So there's definitely going to be ponding on some area roads here. And that's going to be a concern, especially at this hour with a commute. It's now 5:42. People are thinking about heading home from work. Friends, family in this area, just text them, let them know this is a situation that you want to be mindful of. We don't have a tornado touchdown confirmation with this storm, but again, Definitely the potential of ping pong ball size hail, extremely heavy rain right now. Kingsford Heights, Kankakee, this is going to get very loud and noisy. We are talking about blinding rains. We've had video coming in from some of these storms today, just producing extreme amounts of rainfall as well as some hail within these storms, and wind gusts definitely upwards of about 55 to 60 miles per hour. So Hannah, Oregon in the path of this storm. This tornado warning zone does remain in effect until 6:30. So please keep that in mind. The severe threat is not over yet. We still do have a few warnings in place. Not concerned too much anymore with this warned storm here back to the north in LaPorte. That is likely set to expire. But here you can see the strongest part of this storm cell now moving off to the east. So Kingsford Heights, I mean, this is just torrential downpours. We can dissect this storm here. What we can do is give you a three-dimensional view of just exactly how high and tall these storms are. And you can see this particular storm is pushing upwards of about 40,000 to 50,000 feet. So we are seeing some extremely strong updrafts within these thunderstorms, which means the stronger the updraft, it gives the storm more time to be able to build some hail. So hail will be a huge concern coming down. So let's switch over to hail. And there you can see our hail detector definitely picking up hail within this storm as it's moving through this area here, in the area that is warned under this tornado warning. So now is definitely not the time where you want to step outside, see what's happening. Again, there's going to be torrential downpours. Even if there is a tornado within these thunderstorms, it could be even hard to detect, and we would term that a rain-wrapped tornado if there is a tornado touchdown. But this is just impressive, Larry, the amount of heavy rain within this storm right here under the tornado warning, again, for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties until 6:30.
Yeah, and let's review where we are right now, because that's the only tornado warning we have across our area for LaPorte County. The rest of the area, we're seeing some rain come through. In fact, some pretty heavy showers and thunderstorms sweeping through Cook County right now, but not severe. They're just producing some heavy rain, some lightning, maybe some gusty winds, and maybe some small hail too, but nothing severe like we saw earlier. So these are really great signs for us here around the Chicago area. And what's happening is the threat of severe weather is rapidly dropping across much of northern Illinois. It continues here in northwest Indiana, and technically the tornado watch still includes Cook, DuPage, Will, and Kankakee counties until 9 o'clock, but it will be canceled before we get to 9 o'clock, because what will happen is the storms that are blowing through right now, once they move out of here, we're going to see our storm threat really go down quite substantially later this evening. So look out to the west. There's virtually nothing going on out to the west. And what has happened is the atmosphere has really kind of stabilized itself out to the west from earlier thunderstorms. So we're very quiet out here in western Illinois. And so as we go through the next couple of hours, the stormy weather will be primarily in north central Indiana. And for us, we're looking at mainly just some scattered showers later this evening. In fact, I want to run through our futurecast real quick and show you what happens here. Here's 6:30. Notice how most of the storms are off to the east. And then as we head deeper into the time, here's 7 o'clock, maybe some leftover showers, but no severe weather across the area later this evening, just some leftover showers. One thing that's really helping us out is the lake. Lake Michigan has a huge impact on our weather this time of year, and it's really cut down on the severe weather threat here across the city. With that cool breeze off the lake, temperatures in the 60s, it really limits the impact of these storms from growing into massive, intense thunderstorms. Where we've seen the worst weather has been to the south, and that's where temperatures reached the 80s and where the humidity levels were so much higher down to the south. So again, we continue with that tornado warning for LaPorte County for at least another about 30 minutes or so with that storm over in LaPorte County. But the rest of the area, Cheryl, is pretty much not in the clear completely, but the worst of the storms are moving away from us now, pushing into Indiana.
Which is good news. You still need to remain on guard, especially if you are under those tornado warnings in northwest Indiana. Larry, keeping a close eye on this storm as well. A lot of lighting. Now, let me just zoom out a bit just to give you an idea of where we are monitoring this, because this is going to be impacting some of you in Newton and Jasper counties in about the next 25 to 30 minutes. Also showing some signs of rotation here. I was just taking a closer look, and this storm cluster of storms just down 57 to the south of Kankakee. There is a whole lot of lightning associated with this. So as we zoom on in, now this is just off to the south really of our area, but again, the concern would be it moving into northwest Indiana here and still bringing the potential of the severe weather with it. You can see the lightning with this storm here, and what we can do is query this, and you can see this one storm picking up on hundreds of lightning strikes here. But not only that, let me take off lightning here so you can see this storm a little bit closer. This is around Martinton down towards Watsika and Beaver, right along 45, Iroquois County here. Iroquois, this is approaching you. And what I am noticing here, again, with some of these storms that we have been monitoring, because they're basically clusters and cells alone, they do have the potential to pick up on some rotation a little bit better and easier, say if it was in a straight line of thunderstorms here. What we're finding is that we can get the inflow into this thunderstorm. That can allow for the initial spin, and then we get on the backside here that flow coming out of a thunderstorm. So some spin is definitely possible. So I'm keeping a very close eye on this. This is from Pittwood down towards Watsika, right along to the south there of 52, approaching Beaver and Iroquois. Again, keeping a very close eye on this storm, which it is under a severe thunderstorm warning. But this is going to cross over into Newton and Jasper. So for those of you in Beaver, down towards Kentland, and also Iroquois here in Newton County, I just want you to be advised and be alert and just have that safe place ready to go. Remember, if we do have tornado warnings, even with severe thunderstorm warnings, it's always best to have that safe place. The basement, lowest level of your home, you want to separate yourself from the outside. So you want to be in the center, lowest level of your home, preferably in a closet or in a bathroom. That would be the safest place to be. This storm will definitely continue to work its way to the east pretty quickly here. These storms are moving at about 35 miles per hour. So let's track this here as it continues to move in, crossing the state line. And this just coming in, the National Weather Service is also closely monitoring the storms because it is beginning to show some rotation within this thunderstorm, and there could potentially issue a tornado warning, but right now the rotation is a little too broad, which is good news, but something we're continuing to monitor. So let's track this again. If you are in the path of this, keep in mind this is a very strong thunderstorm, high winds, extremely heavy rain, some small hail as well. So Beaver, this would be arriving close to you at 6:01. So that's in about 10 minutes. Kentland at 6:12, Goodland at 6:28, and Rensselaer at 6:29. So Newton and Jasper counties, I want you to be alert here over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Even a stronger cell just off to the south there to the north of Pigeon Grove, and that will be moving closer to Milford. That's a little far south of us, but Newton and Jasper, we know you are watching, and we want to keep you definitely up to date on the very latest. Let's take a look at velocity within this thunderstorm. In Iroquois County, and you can definitely see here there's signs of rotation. It is a little broad, like we mentioned, but as we continue to monitor this, if this does seem to come together a little bit more or the circulation continues to tighten, there could potentially be a tornado warning with this one storm. So we are getting through the thick of this right now. Give this another about hour and we're going to see a lot of the severe weather out of here. So right now is the time to just definitely be weather aware, we like to say. You want to be weather aware in these situations. We still do have the tornado warning in effect for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties until 6:30. And this is that warned area here right on top of Kankakee. And this is going to continue to just batter down with the heavy rain here. Still the potential of some rotation within this thunderstorm as it will continue to remove its way quickly to the east-northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So Lakeville and Oregon in the path of this storm. This is right around Walkerton, down 23. Oregon stretching down even a little bit farther. Knox, you're also getting in on this. Davis, you're in the path of this storm. So for those of you that need to be concerned, it's everyone to the east of where we're seeing the heaviest rain right now. So east of Oregon as well as Plymouth, you would be in the path of this. Polk as well, right along 6 there into parts of Michiana, South Bend, you are getting out of it right now with the tornado warning that just moved off to the east there. That tornado warning in effect until 6 o'clock here for the next couple of minutes for Cass, Elkhart, and St. Joseph counties. So right now we have 2 storms that we are definitely still monitoring and concerned about. We can't rule out a tornado potential within this storm here. We have not gotten any reports of a tornado touchdown. This is strictly showing signs of rotation on our live Doppler 7 max, so something we're monitoring. But definitely a very strong thunderstorm that is moving its way through Iroquois County. A lot of lightning, heavy rain that will be quickly moving in to northwest Indiana. But Larry was mentioning, as we can widen out on this shot, what we can show you is there's the few storms that we have left to go. Parts of northwest Indiana down to the south of Kankakee, so Newton and Jasper, you're going to be getting in on this action over the next 30 to 45 minutes. Then they will continue to move to the east. We also now have that rain falling for parts of Chicago and Cook County, lightning associated with these storms as well. But as we put our radar into motion, this is good. We want all of this to move out of here, and western areas and western counties are basically getting out of the severe threat for now, for the next couple of hours. Certainly, we don't see any new development of those thunderstorms at this point in time. So we are definitely catching a break for our counties to the west. However, still off to the east here, especially down I-57 and I-65 and into parts of Michiana, for parts of northwest Indiana, LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark counties still under that tornado warning within this storm. The tornado watch still does exist across the area, area-wide until 9 p.m. tonight. So still the severe threat isn't over, but once these storms get out of here, hopefully, oh, there we go. The tornado watch has been canceled for our western counties. So this is great news here. It still remains in effect for all of the counties in red, which is Cook down towards Kankakee and northwest Indiana until 9 p.m. So once these storms get out of here that we're finding right now, the trend will be for then the tornado watch to be canceled area-wide, which is definitely something we want to see. So it's been an active day, definitely an active afternoon and evening. And something that we're going to monitor here still until that severe threat is completely over for us. But that one storm where we still do have the tornado warning until 6:30, that is located right on top of Kankakee, Oregon, North Liberty, Polk, La Paz, and Lakeville, getting closer to 31. This would be the zone as it continues to work its way to the east. Larry?
Cheryl, what I want to show you are the local storm reports from across the area, because you can see a cluster of storm reports right across the western suburbs stretching into northwest Indiana, and then several tornado reports here between Peoria and Pontiac. And these reports vary from large hail to high winds to rainfall totals upwards of 1 to 2 inches in a short amount of time. And that has certainly caused issues out here from, say, Oswego and Yorkville over to Naperville, stretching over towards Plainfield and Romeoville. Those have been some of the hardest hit areas. We were talking with the Will County Emergency Management folks, and they were telling us that Romeoville and Plainfield and Bolingbrook were the hardest hit in Will County from this storm that came through with the hail and the wind there. And then we also have seen some very heavy rainfall totals here across the city and on the south side, which has led to some serious flooding concerns on some of the roads. Now, some of that water is starting to go back down, but there's still very heavy rain coming down here in the city and stretching down to the south side as well. We continue with that tornado warning over in LaPorte County at this moment, but the threat of severe weather is starting to shift away from us, and that's really at least a great sign for us here in the Chicago area. There's that thunderstorm warning for the Watseka area here in Iroquois County, and you can see the thunderstorms still moving through the city as we speak. But out to the west, it is quiet. The weather has calmed down there. These leftover showers and storms are still kind of aggravating the flood concern around the city, and we continue with a flood advisory from southern DuPage County into Cook County, then stretching on the other side of the lake. We've seen upwards of 1 inch to almost 2 inches of rain from Aurora to Midway up towards O'Hare. That little band right here of blue is where we've seen 1 to 2 inches of rain so far this afternoon. And as Cheryl was mentioning, the tornado watch has been canceled for our western counties, but it continues until 9 o'clock, primarily for northwest Indiana. Once the storms that are over the city right now clear the city, we will be dropped from the tornado watch. So our severe weather threat throughout the vast majority of northern Illinois is over. It's down to the south in Iroquois County and northwest Indiana, where there continues to be the threat for severe weather, but you can see how storms will even move out of there as we move towards 8, 9 o'clock tonight. Could have some leftover rain overnight tonight, but the severe weather concern is going down pretty rapidly across northern Illinois, and shortly it will end in northwest Indiana. Got to think that lake again with those east winds cooling things down and kind of shutting off the severe weather threat across much of the city here so far this afternoon. And I just see they canceled the severe thunderstorm warning for Iroquois County as we speak. So that storm in Iroquois County no longer technically severe. We're going to start our 6 o'clock newscast coming up in just a moment. Cheryl?
News that the severe thunderstorm warning was canceled for Iroquois, but that will continue to move into Newton and Jasper counties here. So this is going to bring extreme heavy rain, also small hail and lightning. But as of now, that severe storm is under severe limit. So good news there. The tornado warning that has been in effect here for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph and Stark counties has just been updated, and you can see the area that it was covering has now become a little bit smaller, which is good news. But under this zone here from Kankakee down towards Oregon, green in the path of this storm, this is where we could still potentially find some rotation and spin within this thunderstorm. Again, there's not been a confirmed tornado touchdown with this storm, but there has been radar detection of rotation within this thunderstorm. So as we track this off to the east, these storms are moving 20-35 miles per hour. Green, you would be in the path of this still. Elkhart at about 7:39. Green getting closer to you at 7:04. So again, you have to remember as we go a little bit farther to the east, the time change is also there. So as we continue to monitor these storms here, we're going to continue to just still find the potential here of these stronger thunderstorms producing not only extreme rain and also the lightning, but also hail associated with these storms. So just to regroup, as Larry was mentioning, we are getting ready for the top of the 6 o'clock newscast here. As we widen the shot out, you can see the scattered showers and thunderstorms that will be continuing to move through here. You see a lot of lightning. Also, still some warnings on the map at this time for Northwest Indiana. Definitely Northwest Indiana, Newton and Jasper County around Rensselaer. This storm will be sliding through. We have no severe warnings across northern Illinois at this time. It is over towards parts of Michiana. And as we zoom on in, for just to the east now of Lake and Porter County, LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, and Stark, you still remain under this tornado warning until 6:30. So please just be advised that this storm is definitely still bringing the potential of some rotation within this thunderstorm. So a lot of heavy rain, a lot of lightning, and the good news is that these storms are moving east. So in about an hour to 2 hours, our severe threat will definitely continue to diminish across the area. Parts of northern Illinois, now you are out of the tornado watch zone, and that will be definitely a sign of good things as the atmosphere continues to stabilize across parts of the area within these thunderstorms. So live Doppler 7 Max keeping a close eye on these storms as they continue to move to the east. Rensselaer 65, Newton and Jasper County, you are going to be the ones that are going to get hit hard now with the extreme heavy rain and also the lightning, and parts of Chicago, Cook County also getting in now on some thunderstorms. Larry.
Yes, let's start ABC 7 News at 6 o'clock right now because we're watching these storms blow through the area as we speak. These are not severe here in the city, just some heavy rain coming down, and they'll quickly move out over the lake in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Still, we have this tornado-warned storm here in LaPorte County and northern Stark County moving off towards the east. This one will travel just to the South Bend, but that's a tornado warning with that particular storm as it moves to the east. To the south, we still have some nasty storms rolling into Newton and Jasper counties here. No warnings with these storms, but they're producing heavy rain, quite a bit of lightning, and probably some gusty winds and maybe even some small hail. The storm that's coming through the city right now, stretching down the Dan Ryan, heading over the Skyway, moving over 80-94 right now. A real heavy rain producer, but no threat of really large hail or high winds from this storm. It's just a heavy thunderstorm blowing through. But look out to the west. It is quiet right now. No storms out to the west. We still have a flood threat with this flood advisory in place, and that's for the heavy rain that has already fallen across the area. This stripe here of blue is where we've seen 1 to 2 inches of rain, and that extends into the of the northern parts of Lake and Porter counties here in Indiana, and then across the city back into DuPage County, southern Kane County, northern Kendall County. You've been hit really hard with some heavy rain and also those really intense thunderstorms that have come through. The tornado watch officially continues until 9 o'clock. It will be canceled, though, much earlier than that for Chicago and the western suburbs. In northwest Indiana, it may linger a little bit longer just with the storms hanging on, but the severe weather threat overall is really decreasing pretty rapidly across the area. And it's thanks in part to the storms moving rapidly to the east and southeast away from us. So when you look at Futurecast, you can see how there may be some leftover rain and some showers as we go deeper into the evening. Here's 8:30. Overnight tonight, maybe a few showers, but no severe storms expected overnight tonight. The contrast in temperatures today has been rather dramatic from north to south. We've stayed in the 50s and 60s up here in Lake County and even along the lakefront here in the city. To the south, that's where temperatures were allowed to warm up into the 70s and 80s, and that was kind of the focus point for those severe storms throughout the day today. Ravi, we're going to keep an eye on these storms, but again, the overall trend here is the severe weather threat is decreasing.
All right, Larry, thank you so much for that incredible coverage. You and Cheryl, we continue with our 6 o'clock news tonight. I'm Ravi Bajwal. Thank you again for staying with us. We've got team coverage of all the storms. Let's check in now with Alexis McAdams. She's out in Sauk Village tonight. What are you seeing, Alexis?
Good evening, Ravi. We are seeing lots of damage here in the Sauk Village area. We're the first crew here on the ground getting a closer look at exactly what these people in this neighborhood are dealing with. Parts of the home here on the east side have been completely ripped off due to those heavy winds that they've been dealing with. Very strong winds ripping through the region area, especially here in Sauk Village and in Dyer. Now you can see also back here throughout the neighborhood, lots of emergency crews as well are on scene, boarding up parts of these homes and trying to assess the damage that's taken place here in the northwest Indiana area, specifically here in Sauk Village. And at this point, they haven't reported any major injuries or minor injuries even at this point. We're trying to work with authorities to find out more about exactly the damage they're seeing here. You can also see back up here live on top of the roof, they do have some assessors out here trying to figure out exactly what happened to this home, but that strong wind is what they're blaming for those shingles and other parts of that home being ripped off and thrown throughout this area. Now take a look here. This is what we saw a short time ago from a viewer who sent some funnel cloud footage to us. This was in the Dyer area. We're trying to figure out exactly what the damage is there. We did pass through that area, didn't see too much, but there are reports of some power lines down and trees down in that area. You can see those strong winds picking up, those funnel clouds forming in the Dyer area. We are reaching out to authorities at this point to find out exactly what assessment of damage they've seen. And back out here live again in Sauk Village, just a scene as people are just in the past half hour or so trying to figure out exactly the damage in this neighborhood. We'll continue to keep you live updates with the coverage at this point, but no injuries have been reported, just lots of damage in this neighborhood. We're live in Sauk Village. I'm Alexis McAdams, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Alexis, thanks very much. Some dramatic pictures out there. So now let's head out to the western suburbs where these storms were hitting very hard. A mix of high winds, heavy rains, hail taking down power lines. This was Plainfield. Police blocking the area near 135th and Naperville as power crews were working there to take care of those downed power lines. And an ABC 7 viewer sending us this cell phone video of hail just simply hammering away at his deck. Scenes like this playing out all over our viewing area today. And in Naperville, the rain down tree limbs and piles of hail clogging storm drains. And take a look at the street flooding just off of 95th Street. Some very dramatic pictures of what nature can do out there. Now the storm hit Kendall County first. The damage there very evident in the town of Yorkville, where there are reports that a microburst may have hit the community there. Eyewitness News reporter Jesse Kirsch live for us tonight in Yorkville. He's been standing by with a first-hand look, Jesse, at the damage out there.
Ravi, it's apparent as you're driving through the streets here, tree limbs down on the ground, snapped tree trunks, debris on the ground, and this might be one of the most potent images of this. You can see crews up there right now. They're working on repairing the roof here at the Menards. I was able to step inside, talk to the manager, and was able to look at this section of roof completely gone, the skylight coming in, and we saw tarps up there earlier. I'm told this was the electrical section of the store. No one was shopping over there, luckily, and they're saying there were no injuries here. That's just some of the damage here in Yorkville. Take a look just across the street inside the Sprint store. Shattered windows after a sign flew about 50 yards across the parking lot and headed into the storefront. The windows were shattered. Some of the signage, we're told by a district manager for Sprint, wound up inside of the store. Luckily, there were no injuries there as well, and a crew came and boarded it up. I'm told that crew is also getting calls in Romeoville and Orland Park. We also saw a significant amount of flooding and hail in Naperville. Severe weather impacting us across the area. You can see hail falling, flooding in that area, and people in Naperville telling us on social media that they're working together with their neighbors to try to repair what damage is being done. Back here in Yorkville now, I spoke with the mayor a short time ago. He also showed me photos of flooding here. We're going to go check out what we're hearing about, a tree on top of a vehicle. But despite all of that, the mayor of Yorkville, John Purcell, telling me no injuries reported here as of now. So that's the latest. We're live in Yorkville tonight. Jesse Kirsch, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Jesse, thanks very much. Thankful that there are no injuries out there. Now let's turn back to Larry Maurer. He's standing by the Weather Center. He's got more of an update on where we are on the storm now and where we've been. Larry?
Yeah, Robbie, we've got two warnings in place. One's a tornado warning, which is over here for just a small portion of LaPorte County, now stretching over into St. Joseph County and just north of Plymouth here in Indiana. So this tornado warning continues. It's kind of moving away from our area, more into the South Bend TV coverage area. But you can see this storm is still a nasty storm capable of producing a tornado. We still have a new severe thunderstorm warning, rather, for Benton and Iroquois counties here. This is parts of Indiana and Iroquois County here in Illinois. This storm moving off to the east could produce winds up to 60 miles per hour and maybe even quarter-size hail. It's moving into an environment here where it's a little bit more favorable for possible tornadoes. So if you're in Benton County here, and that's a little far south of us, but if you know people or if you're catching our signal down here in Benton County, you have the threat of maybe a tornado with that storm as it moves off to the east. But look at all the storm reports. We've had a number of storm reports here across the western and southwestern suburbs and then stretching into northwest Indiana, and a number of tornadoes reported too between Peoria and Pontiac. It's been a very active day for severe weather as we've seen several clusters of storms roll through. These storm reports here vary from large hail to high wind reports and flooding reports as well. A lot of the viaducts filled up with water as these storms came through, and also some of the low-lying areas certainly filled up with water as well. But the overall severe weather threat is starting to decrease across the area as these storms move away. In fact, look out to the west. It's quiet. We still have a flood advisory in effect for this area shaded in green. The tornado watch is being shaved away as well too. But there's the big storm system up here moving through Wisconsin. As that starts to pull away from us, the severe weather concerns for us will start to decrease. Our temperatures are in the 60s. That cool air has certainly helped things stabilize a little bit here around the city. There's the tornado watch officially until 9 o'clock. But Cheryl, as I was mentioning a few moments ago, that'll be canceled before we get to 9 o'clock as the severe threat is primarily over towards South Bend and then south of Newton and Jasper counties.
Yeah, so still a few strong storms right now on radar at this time. Again, these storms that really move through parts of northwest Indiana, Dyer, Indiana area, reporting a tornado touchdown just about a few hours ago. These storms now are to the east, where we do have a tornado warning still in effect here for LaPorte, Marshall, St. Joseph, Stark County, and this remains in effect until 6:30. So we're continuing to monitor this. You can see the lightning here associated with it. Now, the strongest part of this cell is now moving to the east of Kankakee and Lakeville here. We can take a look at the velocity, something that we're continuing to monitor within these thunderstorms, where we have the reds and the greens indicating the rotation there. That is located just off to the south and east of Kankakee. Now Lakeville there, Plymouth. So in this zone where we do have the tornado warning still in place, for those of you in this area, you definitely want to be in your safe place. This is something that's going to be a concern until at least the 6:30 time frame here, as it will continue to move its way to the east pretty quickly. And we also still have another storm in parts of Indiana that is now crossing over the state line, moving out of Illinois. And here you can see a severe thunderstorm warning here for the Milford area, Wellington, Iroquois County, and then this will be moving across the state line. So crossing, getting close to 41 here, Fowler, Oak Grove, Hickory Grove. Within this thunderstorm, the main concern would be the high winds, upwards of about 50 to 60 miles per hour, as well as the heavy rain rates. We're definitely getting some pictures in on social media of some ponding on area roads, some flooding out of these storms, because they are bringing just an excessive amount of rain as these storms move in. Just to the north of this warn cell is where we're finding some intense storm action right now in Newton, County, and this is going to continue to cross over the county line here, get closer to 65, and then Newton and Jasper, you're going to be getting hit with this storm here, stretching from Mount Iroquois back towards Kentland. Beaver just to the north of it, so the heaviest of the storm and the rain is now moving to the east of you, right along 41 there, and this will be approaching 65. So again, we're not in the clear yet with some of these storms. Take a look at satellite and radar here in general, and you can see the pattern of these showers and storms as they just raced on through. But back to the west, the atmosphere and the environment is stabilizing, so that is good news. We'll still have those showers, but still the severe storms right now occurring in parts of northwest Indiana. Larry.
Yeah, you know, I want to talk a little bit about the hail that we saw, because many of you saw very large hail. Here's some video we have of some of the flooding. This is in Hickory Hills. The intense rainfall rates too. We're talking on the order of 5 inches per hour with these storms. I got a lot of reports of areas picking up nearly an inch of rain in about 20 minutes. Here's some of that hail video. This is from the Plainfield area. The hail that was coming down was upwards of quarter to ping pong ball size, even a little bit larger in some locations. And with these driving winds, it was blowing those hailstones into the windows. A lot of screens, I've gotten reports of screens being damaged from the hail. Also some windows broken, especially on the south side of Naperville over towards Yorkville and Oswego. A lot of reports of windows damage, and look at the driving wind. So when you get winds on that order of 60 to 70 miles per hour, it can blow those big hailstones right into your window. Oftentimes we'll talk about when we have a severe thunderstorm warning that you should stay away from your windows because of the threat of that hail breaking the windows, and so that's the case with some of these storms that we've seen so far. You look at the radar and you can see a new severe thunderstorm warning just has been issued here for northern parts of Lake and Porter County. This severe thunderstorm warning is capable of producing winds upwards of 60 miles per hour and hail even up to an inch or so in diameter. So this storm right here that's on the southern side of the lake here has just kind of intensified in the last couple of moments. You folks in the Gary area, you're now under a severe thunderstorm warning for this storm that's moving off towards the east. We'll have to keep an eye on it because it's still in somewhat of a favorable environment for even more intensification, but it is moving east here at about 25 miles per hour. So we'll track it here as it moves towards Ogden Dunes and Chesterton at about 6:47, New Durham at about 7:08. So this storm, although most of it's out over the lake, the southern flank of it is just now moving through Gary and pushing over towards Lake Station and the Portage area. That's a pretty nasty storm here that has just now intensified enough for a severe thunderstorm warning to be issued for it. Cheryl?
Just looking at the latest information coming in with this storm, and this is an area that has already been hit very hard just about an hour to 2 hours ago with some very strong storms moving through, even producing tornadoes close to about Dyer, Indiana. So here we go again as this one storm cell just intensified. This is going to roll right through parts of Gary and Ross. You are going to get hit with this. So what we're going to find is that we're going to see extreme winds with this as it continues to move its way to the east. So anyone in this zone for Lake and Porter County, you are under the severe thunderstorm warning until 7 p.m. We can track this storm as it continues to move its way to the north and east, 35 miles per hour. So in the path of this storm, again, you want to be indoors. If you're listed here for parts of northern Lake and Porter counties, New Chicago 624, Lake Station at 627, Ogden Dunes at 634, Burns Harbor at 640, and Porter at 645. So again, this is the new warn cell that just popped up in the past 5 minutes. So this is right along I-80. There you can see Gary. You're going to get the intense rainfall from this as well as the gusty winds and potentially quarter to ping pong ball size hail not out of the question with this thunderstorm. We can switch over here and we have the ability to take a look at the hail size, and you can see some very large hail being reported with this storm as it moved through parts of Hammond. So this is going to be right along I-80 from Gary to Ross, crossing over 6. Hobart, you will be in the path of this storm, as well as Ogden Dunes and Chesterton. Potentially, again, 1.5 inch size hail, not out of the question within this storm. So keeping a very close eye on this. This is the newly warned storm that just came in where the severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for northern Lake and Porter counties until 7 p.m. We'll switch over to velocity mode, keeping a close eye here. And this is somewhat good news. We're not seeing any couplets in this area as of right now, but definitely the potential of some strong gusty winds within this thunderstorm. And we can take a look at velocity, and it helps us tell the direction of wind, which is something we definitely look at for the potential of any tornadic activity. But we can also take a look at the potential here of some extremely high winds within these storms. So something that we're going to continue to query and monitor within the storms, but it won't be out of the question to see wind gusts upwards of about 45, 50 miles per hour when we do have these strong storms in place. And also with these storms, something to note, they are producing a lot of rain, a lot of lightning, and they're going to continue to pose a flash flooding threat for parts of the area where we're having those storms moving through. So this is definitely going to be concern for evening travel, northwest Indiana, Newton and Jasper down 65. This storm will continue to race quickly to Rensselaer, 231, Carpenter also in the path of this, and then head off to the east out of our area. And then just off to the south is where we do have a severe thunderstorm warning here, just to the south there, right around Parish Grove, Earl Park, Fowler, Boswell. So we're not done with the intense activity with some of these storms, but we are going to see the threat continue to diminish here over the next 35 to 45 minutes. And something that is good news is that the tornado watch has been canceled for Illinois. I see that you have that map up, Larry, but still in effect here for northwest Indiana.
Yeah, and it's for that storm that's right there in the Gary area. Until that storm clears, you're technically under this tornado watch until 9 o'clock, but it has been cleared. Chicago, DuPage County, Joliet, Kankakee, no longer under a tornado watch. It's been canceled early. It was supposed to go till 9. It's been canceled early because of those storms moving off towards the east. The severe weather threat is in northwest Indiana, and that one storm moving into parts of Iroquois and Benton County here in Indiana. You can see the process of these storms. This is a 6-hour radar loop, and we had a number of very discrete supercell thunderstorms come across the western suburbs earlier. There's the big one that produced the hail and the wind across northern Will County, southern DuPage County, and then also prompted the tornado warnings we've seen over in parts of northwest Indiana, and now the new storm moving through Gary. But on this 6-hour time lapse, I can also show you the hail tracks as well. So these little areas that kind of look like almost like glowworms coming across the map, those are the areas that saw the large hail. And right over there over Oswego, over into southern Naperville, Bolingbrook, Plainfield area, those are some of the areas that saw the largest hail. I'll zoom in closer and we can look at those hail tracks again and give you a review of where the larger hailstones fell. And you can see right over northern Will County, back into northern Kendall County, and then also parts of southern DuPage County saw some really large hail from these storms blowing through. Now the radar view, the satellite radar view, I want to show you kind of a wider view because we've got a very active jet stream right over top of us. And you may be wondering, well, why did we get such large hail? Well, up above us, there's a cold pocket of air coming in. So as that air rose and formed raindrops, those raindrops froze and they froze together and created hailstones that got bigger and bigger until they eventually fell down to the ground and produced the large hail that we've seen. We still have these 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, this one for Lake and Porter County and the other one down to the south. Still watching this one. It is showing some signs of trying to rotate, so it's possible we could get a tornado warning issued for that particular storm. But later tonight, we're completely seeing the severe weather threat end, maybe some leftover showers later this evening. Our temperatures have cooled off into the 60s here along the lakefront. The warmer air has been to the south, and that's where the most intense storms have been located, where we've seen those temperatures climb into the 70s and even 80s before the storms got here. The next 3 days, well, we continue with storm chances. Showers around tomorrow, and we'll see temperatures in the low 70s. But tomorrow night, late in the evening and the overnight hours, we could have another round of severe storms coming through. Wednesday, still some rain, maybe a few showers, and then Thursday, still showers around with temperatures in the 70s, and it's all thanks to this front just kind of hanging out in our area. So that'll continue the rain and storm chances. Ravi?
Larry, thanks very much. Well, you've been talking a lot about the damage all over the place. Let's take a look at more video. High winds appearing to be the blame here for a canopy collapse. This is a gas station out in Alsip. This is happening at the Citgo station there. That's 111th and Cicero. And if you can believe it, despite all that damage, no reports of any injuries over there. And then check out this street flooding. This is South Suburban Hickory Hills. And we showed you this a little bit earlier, but it's worth looking at again. This was 97th Street, people driving right through there, all through that high water. Be careful of high water, especially when it comes up so quickly. And the sound of that is hail, of course, in video from a viewer in Oswego. Larry, you were talking about the kind of hail they got there. These are the kinds of large hailstones falling on a suburban roof out in the western suburbs. Their hail simply pounding all of that area. And now that the weather has cleared a little bit, at least to the south and to the west, we've got Chopper 7 up live with some clear skies. And we can tell you that we're heading towards some damaged areas. But right now, ComEd is saying that we have some 10,000 people without power in the service area. There are power outages as a result of all of that bad weather. And at O'Hare at this hour, a number that is sure to increase, but right now more than 500 flights are canceled at O'Hare. So Chopper 7 HD giving you a sense of how areas have been flooded here, and you can see the aftermath of these incredible storms. But Larry, you could see the amount of water that came down so fast, so quickly.
Yeah, those rainfall rates were upwards of, say, 5 to 6 inches per hour. That's how fast the rain was coming down with some of these thunderstorms. And again, the good news is the tornado watch has been canceled for most of northern Illinois. It continues, however, for northwest Indiana until 9 o'clock, and that includes you folks over in Valparaiso and in Gary. We have this one severe thunderstorm still moving through Lake County, pushing over into Porter County. This will be the last gasp of the stormy weather here in this part of northwest Indiana. It's in effect until 7 o'clock this evening, and it's right over Gary right now, and then stretching over towards the county line where we're getting some real high winds and some very heavy rain. The threat is that we could get some hail with this and maybe even some winds upwards of 60 miles per hour. This will be heading over towards Portage. It's crossing over Ogden Dunes as we speak, and then moving over towards the Chesterton area as well. You can see on the wider view as we put this in motion, this is that 6-hour time lapse, the storm's transitioning away from us and moving off towards the east and southeast. So the severe weather threat is ending across much of the area except here in northwest Indiana, and especially with that storm that's up around the Gary area. We've also got the severe thunderstorm warning down here in Benton County for Indiana. We're keeping an eye on that storm too, which is down here to the south, and that storm is producing some very heavy rain and lightning here in Rensselaer and then stretching down to the south as well. So as we go through the night tonight, the severe weather threat is ending this evening. Storms are shifting to the east. I do want to show you that 7-day forecast though and tell you that as we head towards the next couple of days, there will be rain chances. Our next severe weather threat is Tuesday evening. But Cheryl, we've got some slightly drier weather coming our way this weekend, and we could certainly use it.
Yeah, we definitely need a break from the severe weather, but we do want to hone in on what's happening now. So we're getting into this transition period. We're working our way out of the severe storm threat. However, northwest Indiana still under that. And what I'm cycling right now are rainfall rates, something that we are noticing here around parts of northern Illinois as well as northwest Indiana are definitely a lot of rain over the past 3 to 4 hours once these storms really set in, and where we have some of the heaviest rainfall amounts, definitely anywhere from about 1 to 3 inches in just a short amount of time. There are reports of flooding in and around the area. So this video coming in from Naperville, and there you can see the flooded streets because of how fast the rain fell. I mean, just an excessive amount of rain with some of these storms. They were producing rain rates up to about 4 to 5 inches per hour. So we are going to continue to monitor this situation. But Ravi, the good news is that we are beginning to shift out of the severe storm threat.
We can be thankful for that, Cheryl. Thank you so much. There's still a little bit to watch out in northwest Indiana. And we are going to take a break in just a moment here. More news, and we will just wrap it up right now. Thank you for joining us for all this live weather coverage. More news on WCIU at 7 o'clock, and then we join you again tonight at 10 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.
What are we doing for weather, folks, for 7 o'clock? great question. I guess probably me.
I just kind of throw a wrench.
From the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service in Chicago has issued a flood advisory for northeastern Kendall County in northeastern Illinois, northwestern Will County in northeastern Illinois, southeastern Kane County in northeastern Illinois, southern DuPage County in northeastern Illinois, until 7:45 p.m. At 4:42 p.m., Doppler radar indicated thunderstorm activity moving into an area that had earlier experienced heavy rainfall and minor flooding. Additional flooding may begin shortly. Some locations that may experience flooding include Aurora, Naperville, Bolingbrook, Wheaton, Downers Grove, Elmhurst, Lombard, Oswego, Glen Ellen, West Chicago, Batavia, Westmont, Lisle, Villa Park, Hinsdale, Burr Ridge, Oak Brook, Willow Springs, York Center, and Woodridge. The following is a flood advisory from the National Weather Service. At 5:34 p.m., Doppler radar was tracking another line of thunderstorms moving into the advisory area. Radar estimates and automated rain gauges have indicated 1.0 to 1.5 inches have already occurred. Additional rainfall of 0.25 to 0.50 inches is possible. Any additional rainfall may worsen flooding. Areas most likely to experience ongoing minor flooding over the next hour include Highland, Griffith, Southern Gary, New Chicago, Lake Station, and rural areas of Porter County between Valparaiso and Chesterton. Excessive runoff from heavy rainfall will cause